Welcome to Idea Tennis, where we challenge ideas, elevate thinking, and serve up conversation that make you question everything.
We all start from the same place of nothing. Zero. We
Ignorance.
all start at the zero start line. No followers, no business. All of us start at the same place. So, what makes it that some people get to the finish line and other people run off the course at some point? All the answers to the things that we struggle with live within us, and it requires humility, empathy, and self-reflection to be able to look inward to find those answers that we need to be able to move forward, make decisions, be better, do better. People cannot compare and create at the same time. You're either doing one or the other.
People comparing themselves to others. That is the topic of today's discussion on Idea Tennis. And we've been working on this mini series around the 5 Ps, and we're going to use that to keep driving this conversation forward. So the goal of the conversation is to shift focus from comparison to creation. But here's the 5P breakdown that you need to pay attention to. Number one, the principle. Your only competition is your last version of yourself. And the pattern. Second P, feeling like you're behind, mimicking others, and instead of innovating and creating self-doubt. Here's the promise. When you shift focus inward, you unlock authenticity and creativity. Here's the other P, prediction. By embracing your unique strengths, you will create impact effortlessly. And the last P, purpose, the one that we all love. Identify your unique advantage and build from it. So we're going to talk about this conversation around comparison and self-judgment, or people comparing themselves to others. So Jessica, good morning to you, lady. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm fabulous. I'm excited about the topic of this conversation. We've all been a victim of comparison at some point in our life. How do we get over that and realize that the true magic in whatever it is that we're doing or working towards is found in authenticity? Authenticity is the magnet that attracts people to us, our people, the people that relate and resonate to whatever it is our message is or your message is as the listener. I think that so many of us get hung up and stall out and stop at taking action because, yes, that fear of judgment that we've spoken about already, but that fear of judgment has a lot to do with the fact that we feel people are comparing us to others because we're doing it to ourselves. We don't, right? We don't film that video. We don't post that social media post because we're so hung up on what we feel we should look like, that our content isn't perfect, that the lighting isn't the best. All of these things really don't matter. What matters is the action. What matters is the authenticity. That's what's going to connect people with you. Do you agree with that, Asher?
I do agree. I do agree. And as you was talking, it's interesting what pops in my head. It's just a question I'm going to ask you. Have you ever met a mirror that doesn't know who you are? Have you ever met a mirror that doesn't recognize you?
I wanted to say no, but the answer is yes. There have been seasons in my life where I've looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize who I was.
But did the mirror recognize you?
I don't know, because the reflection that it was giving back to me physically looked like me, but
Mm.
didn't feel like me because maybe I was focused in on like why something wasn't working, or I was focused in on why is why is someone here and I'm there? I want to be here and not there. And how did they get there? And why are they there? And I'm here and I'm doing the work and I'm putting in the effort and I'm doing things with the right intention, but I'm here.
Mm.
And so I think a lot of times, whether we believe it or not, sometimes when we look in that mirror, we physically see who we are, but we question so much about ourselves that we don't see that true, authentic version of us because we're hung up on something else.
I'm gonna stick here for a bit because I think this is interesting, by the way you answer that. Because when you look at a mirror, it only gonna reflect back to you what it sees, right? But then inside of your head, you and the mirror is not the same thing. And oftentimes the mirror, you never met a mirror that doesn't recognize you. It's gonna see you the same way, you know what I'm saying? But do you see yourself the same way the mirror sees you? And
Mm.
oftentimes it happens because we are comparing. So now when we're talking about compare yourself to the last version of yourself, that's an interesting take as well. But oftentimes that's not the conversation we have in your head. And I want to get into what is the conversation you have in your head when we ask this question. Have you ever met a mirror that never recognizes you? And what does the mirror sees when the mirror looks at you? Because oftentimes it sees you just like you are, but you don't see yourself the same way.
Most people, and especially women, but men do it too, look in the mirror and you have two perspectives. You look for the imperfections,
Mm,
or you look for how cute you look or feel that day based on your energy and your vibe. And so, what determines the two?
mm,
Comparison plays a big role. When we compare what perhaps we physically look like to somebody else, I believe that there have been many times in my life I've struggled. If you come to visit me and you see the pictures in my home, you'll see the many sizes, shapes of Jess. I've struggled with weight for almost all of my adult life for various reasons. But one of the things I will say about no matter what size I was, whether I was a 2 or an 18, I had a lot of confidence in myself. I loved me. I felt like I looked damn good. Even when I was a size 18, I felt that way. I felt I carried it well. And I
mhm.
felt my weight doesn't define me. And what other people think about my weight, that's their problem, not mine. I think that so many of us get caught up in comparing and what she looks like versus what I look like or what she sounds like. I was on a Zoom meeting actually earlier today, and the Zoom meeting had to do with social media strategy and helping some business owners answer some questions and figure out like how to maximize social media. And one of the things that one of the participants brought up was, how do you connect with an influencer, someone who has millions of followers, and you want to talk to them about your business? It was interesting that she came up with that perspective, that that was the person that she wanted to connect with. Well, my answer to her was, get out of your head and get into your heart. Look for people that look like you. And I don't mean physically look like you, but that are you.
Mm-hmm.
People who are, and she said she was struggling with the health challenge, that she was using supplements to help bridge the gap for her health. And look for people like that. Those are your people. Those are the people that are going to relate to you. Those are the people that are going to say, wow, what is she doing that I could do? Instead of comparing to the influencer that has millions of followers and is so far from who you are. Connect with real people.
Here's an interesting thing. We all do this. I'm gonna compare my inside to your outside. And when you meet somebody, you're seeing your outside, but you're looking at yourself on the inside. And it's not the same thing, but you don't know their inside. And if I can compare my inside to your inside, it will be a different story. I wouldn't judge myself the same way because in your head, you're probably going crazy, just like I'm going crazy. But on the outside, I don't see that. So we often compare that person outside to our inside and not realizing it's not the same thing. So that's why he's always say compare yourself with your other version because you know the inside of you 2 days ago, 3 days ago, but you don't know that person inside a couple of years back. You only seen their outside now, and the outside doesn't tell the story because as much as you see on social media, that's the outside, but you don't know what that person going through on the inside. And
Mhm.
I've talked to a lot of people. I see them. I see their own social media, and I know they're going through a lot of crazy stuff, right? But you see their posts, and you're like, oh, that person got it all together. They don't, because I just talk to them, right? So it's oftentimes we don't know what somebody's inside is, but we always see the outside and we think that's, oh, it's all great, but it's not. So that's why you can't compare yourself to other people, because you don't know what the inside climate is like. We don't
Yeah.
know what that weather is brewing on the inside for them. We only see the outside, and oftentimes that's not true.
That's because social media, in my opinion, is like a highlight reel. And it's the perception that people want to give of themselves to the world. Real, right, it doesn't matter, but it's what they feel is their persona, their brand, their image that they want to portray. The question that people need to ask themselves when they're
Mhm.
in that place and space of comparison, instead of asking, how do I measure up? Ask, how do I show up? It goes from ego to impact when you stop asking, how do I measure up to so and so? You're not in competition. That person is them, and you are you. That is your secret sauce. That's the magic potion that lives within you. That's the thing that attracts individuals to you. I've said this before, and I'll
Mm.
say it again. I am not everyone's cup of tea, but I am someone's cup of cafecito. I know a lot of people, I'm too much, baby, for them. They don't resonate with me. They can't connect to me. My voice hurts them. I could imagine.
Same here, Jess. Oh, Asher
Yeah.
speak too fast. He stumbles over his words. He's blah. I don't care. This is my voice.
But does that stop us?
No, I'm still gonna talk. It's interesting too, right? My coach Joel and I often talk. It was like when we get into public speaking, people want to start change up a lot of things about their voice. But it was like you've been talking your whole life, right? That with that voice. What? Why you gonna act like you're an actor now? Like, no, just be you.
Your customer service voice would turn on. Is that what would happen? The
This is my
slow.
car center voice.
I think that when you realize no one is you and that is your superpower, you don't need to change who you are, the authenticity, the fabric of your being. What you're working to do is to be better and do better, to
Mhm.
find a way for you, whether it's personally or professionally, to be able to level up. Level up means different things to different people. For me, for our conversations, level up in the three things that matter most to me: mindset, growth, and community. I want to level up the people I'm around. I want to level up the trajectory of growth that I have and that I help others have in their life. And I want my mindset to be, which I'm going to say, and I've shared this with you, that all the challenges I have been having, I'm like, it's okay, because I know I'm going to find the answer. I'm not stuck on the challenge. I'm stuck on the solution. I'm
Mm.
not stuck about what I can't do. I'm moving forward and focusing on what I can do. I'm not comparing my work, my business, my goals, my dreams to someone else's, because they're mine, not theirs. We may be moving in the same direction, but we're not in the same path.
I think it was Michelle Obama or somebody says that, like, I gotta go at my own pace because we don't wear the same size shoes, something like that. But it's interesting when you think about like the journey you're on. Nobody can walk in your pace, at your footstep more than you. You can't. So you gotta do yours. But I wanted to ask you this too, by the way, because I was listening to. I want to see the comparison. So what do you think are the upside and downside of comparison? Because everything that we think is negative, there's a positive to it. So what is upside or the downside for comparing yourself to others? Like, let's start with the upside.
So I think it could be either a trigger, a negative trigger, something that stops you, or it could be an inspiration to you. You
Mm.
see someone, but when we see someone, and maybe we're talking about seeing them on social media, on YouTube, whatever, wherever we discover people that we connect with, right? We see where they are now, which is generally close to the height of whatever it is that they're doing. That's how we discovered them, because millions of others discovered them before us. But that's not where we are. But you think about, okay, how did that person start?
That's the good question.
And do you
This
want to know something, Asher? We all start from the same place of nothing. Zero. We
ignorant.
all start at the zero start line. No followers, no business. All of us start at the same place. So, what makes it that some people get to the finish line and other people run off the course at some point?
One of the big thing that I like about the investment in like education is because human beings gonna forever be ignorant. Like baby's gonna born not knowing nothing ignorant. Somebody gotta teach them. So that's a business that you can invest in education because people gonna always have to be educated, and they're gonna always be stupid people. There's gonna always be stupid people. So you can invest in find a way to educate stupid people. So when you think about your whole life, like whether or not you think you're not like the downside to comparison is that I don't think I'm as good as that person, then you're gonna see other people that's not as good as you the same way too. But one of my heroes is Earl Nightingale, right? He was talking about like the upside. I saw his work. I'm like, I want to be as great as that guy or greater, right? I want to do public speaking. I want to put my voice out in the world and impact people. But me see him, what he does, maybe he want to do better. Like the comparison is in the form of ambition. Like I want to go do as great as that guy. But I don't beat myself up because I'm not as good as him when I started. Because I listened to some of his earlier tapes too, and I'm like, he wasn't that great when he first started putting his voice out there, but he got better over time, got better over time. So then I'm looking at my own self too. Okay, when I first started public speaking or just put my voice out there, I couldn't stand my own voice because it was so bad. But little by little, I get better at it. I'm like looking at look at where I started to where I'm at right now. I'm like, okay, Asher, people did tell you to slow down when you speak. I'm slow. I'm speaking slower than I used to speak. I see the progress, right? Because I'm comparing myself to the last version of Asher that I was working on. And the future Asher that I want to see come to life, he's going to be even greater. But right now, I am me, and I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that, but you want to level up. And that's the part I think that people that are stuck in that comparison space seem to forget. It's
Mm.
you're comparing the end result when you're not you haven't even gotten started yet, or maybe you just got started. You want to compare apples to apples. You cannot compare an apple to an orange. It just doesn't work. What at the end of the day are you honestly comparing? I
Mm.
think that that's when the self-sabotage, all those fears that paralyze us start to set in. I'm not good enough. I don't have what's necessary to achieve what that person did. I'm going to also say this. Why do you want that person's dream? It's
Mm.
your dream. What's your path? What's your purpose? Can it be similar to someone else's? Absolutely. But God didn't plant the dream in your heart that he planted in my heart. And so I think that when we compare, we really need to self reflect and think about what it is that we're comparing. And
Mm.
why are we allowing those negative thoughts to frame our perception of reality? Because that's exactly what comparing does. It frames those negative thoughts and turns them into the perception of our reality. It's not our reality because you change the thoughts, you change the frame, you change the perception.
Here's an upside to comparison. I often talk about my great grandmother, right? She was one of my heroes, and she was very spiritual. And I felt like my path in this life to be a very spiritual person as well. And here's why I think this way, because I feel like sometimes the universe introduces to your purpose by the people you meet early in your life, and they give you a road, I would say that a blueprint of what it looks like. So when you get on further in life, you can like, okay, now I see why I like this in me because I met the person that embodies it at early in my life. That I can see what it looks like. So I saw what real spirituality and real kindness and so forth and so look like to my great grandmother. So then I start comparing myself whether or not I am living up to what I saw in her. And what did she show me that I need to work on to get better at this thing that I feel like is my purpose? So you want to compare yourself to people that are occupying the space that you're supposed to occupy and then figure out what did they do to get there. Because oftentimes when you meet them, they're probably doing it very great, but you got to figure out what was their early part of that process is. And then you start measuring yourself up to that purpose that is very similar to theirs.
I'm going to agree to disagree in the sense
Mm.
that you're not comparing, you're inspired.
Mm.
Not only are you inspired, but in some ways it's almost as if, and when we're talking about early, especially family members that help form us and our mindsets from a very young age, it almost has to do with what would this person think? They saw me now. So you have that about your grand. I have that about my dad. So
Mm.
my dad died when I was 19 years old. And for me, over the years, I've stopped and I've thought about when I'm making a decision, what would my dad think if he knew that I made this decision? What would he do? What would he have done? And so I think that when we talk about the comparison from that perspective, it's being inspired to be better and do better. It's almost a sense of obligation to live up to the characteristics and the things that they fed us to become. It's almost as if the only person you're letting down is you when you don't live to your full potential. Because God created you to be a masterpiece. Whether you see yourself hanging up at the Louvre or you see yourself on the street corner in New York City, that's up to you. How you decide the things that matter, the things that are important, the things that create change, not only for you, but for other people, have to do with the perception that you have of yourself. If you're comparing, your perception is not real.
Who you say your dad is one of your heroes? I want to know who's the other heroes in Just Life. I want to know.
I mean, we know my abuela is a hero in my life. Both of them in different ways.
The reason why I asked because you mentioned the question like, what would my dad do? What would my dad think? What would
Mhm.
that person think? Because oftentimes that's a very good question to have. When you were questioning yourself or you're doubting yourself, okay, my judgment is up, but what will that other person's judgment be with this particular decision? And it's interesting. So you say your dad and who else? Your brother? Who else?
My abuelas, yeah. I have a coach. I have a coach, and I often think about what is she going to say when she finds out that I made this decision? I hold myself to a very high standard. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably unrealistic, admittedly, for most people. And I don't expect other people to have the same high standard as I do. But when I make decisions or I'm questioning a decision, because it happens to all of us, we question, we make a decision, we move forward with something, and then sometimes we start to question it. Was it the right thing to do? Should we have done something else? It's not rolling out the way I expected it to, or it's happening way too fast and I'm not ready. There's lots of things that we start to question. I think about, well, when I tell her, what is she going to say to me?
Okay.
Sometimes we don't realize, and I've said this before, and I say it because she's the one who said it to me, is all the answers to the things that we struggle with live within us. And it requires humility, empathy, and self reflection to be able to look inward to find those answers that we need to be able to move forward, make decisions, be better, do better.
See, that statement is true, but it lacks something else. So all of the answers are within us, but not all the questions. So then that's why we need other people because other people have the question for the answer that we already know, but oftentimes we can't think of the question on our own. That's why we need other people because when we go back to the mirror, right? Have you met a mirror that doesn't recognize you? So you gotta figure out. You meet somebody and like, oh, this is what you're saying, but they ask you a question like, you realize an answer, but because the answer come to you like based on the question they ask. That's why I love coaching. I love talking to other people because they got the question I don't have for my answers. Because no question is the most important thing, really, is the right question to ask yourself. And we can't, some of us can't do it on our own. I want to also tap back into something here. You know, all the time we say we got to measure ourselves, the last version of ourselves. but oftentimes we don't do the measurement to the future version of ourselves. So if we gotta travel, I don't know what day you decide you're gonna leave planet Earth, but for me, I decided I'm gonna leave at my 86th birthday, right? So now I have to think about, Jesse, if you gotta think about, I don't know what your number is, right? What is your number, by the way?
When God calls me, I don't know. When
Okay,
God calls me home,
but if God give you a choice and said, Jess, when will you want to leave? What would that number be?
I don't want to leave. I don't know. It's a for me, and that's a whole other podcast conversation. But for me, I'm not afraid of death. The day that God calls me home, God calls me home.
Okay.
But I would like to live a long time
All
and
right. So the long time Jess
but
gotta ask this.
healthy. I want to be
Ask this.
healthy and like vibrant and quality of life and good cognitive abilities and
I think I opened up an answer this just now. Pardon us, folks. Pardon us. But here's my question: if you gotta think about your future self, like for me personally, my 86, the 86-year-old Asher, like if I gotta have him to to ask me, like, what would he think? Like, like how would I measure up to that person? And what decision would that person make? So that comes back to measuring myself against the future guy and the past guy to figure out what the present guy gonna do in the moment. And sometimes we get to do that. It's not just reverse, questioning, but it's future questioning too, to figure out where I'm heading. And at a certain age, would I be okay with this? And would this be the thing that I'll be proud of in the future?
I think it's important that we like ourselves just as we are. That authenticity and the transparency to be able to say, I'm perfectly imperfect. I am a work in progress. I know that I have big dreams and big things that I want to bring to life, but I also know that I can't do it alone. I also know that there's going to be a lot of mistakes. There's going to be times that I fail. There's going to be times that I win. There's going to be miracles that I don't know how the things happened, but they happened in my favor. But ultimately, you have to like all those phases of the process and know that those parts matter. When you think about some of the people I follow, he's a coach online. He used to be a former football player, but I see I'm not going to say his name. He wants me to promote. I got to make some affiliate money on that one. But I've seen his story. I love about him, and millions of people follow this guy. He packs stadiums. But what I think resonates the most to his audience and his followers is his transparency and authenticity. He doesn't try to pretend he is something he's not. He shares the challenges, he shares how he overcame the challenges. He reflects on who he was constantly and talks about who he is now. Those things matter.
This is what I try to convince a lot of people. The thing that you had in the closet when I'm writing books with them, right? I'm like, you gotta share those things you tucked in the closet for so long. Those are the real interesting things that people want to know about you. Because not a lot of people know about it. But if you're okay and you are brave enough and courageous enough to write those stuff out and share them, people gonna connect. Because you know what? Everybody wants to do the same, but they're afraid. Like everybody want to tell you about that one time that it was so embarrassed, right? But they want to be able to tell it so it can eventually laugh about it. But they're afraid. They're afraid to share it, to get it out there and get it normalized before they can laugh about it. But you gotta get it out so you can sit back and laugh about it instead of
You
feeling
know,
embarrassed about it.
you know what happens when you get it out? The first person that gets it out in a group of people, do you know what happens after?
Oh, these emotions. I see it in action when people are like, oh, I'm inspired. Like that person just moved me.
And then they say their most embarrassing thing or
Yes.
whatever. And it's almost like a domino effect. Because it took
Yes.
one brave person.
Mm-hmm. The
It
lead
took
domino.
one brave person to realize that I've gotten over every difficult thing in my life so far. This is no different. And I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go and share my embarrassing story because I don't know what it's
Mm-hmm.
going to possibly do to impact someone else. And from the personal perspective, it's almost like cathartic right? It's like
Mm.
therapeutic. It's like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, I got it out there. It is what it is. It's out in the world. I don't have to hide it. I don't have
You're
to,
free, you feel lighter, you feel a
yeah.
sense of relief, you can float. I'm like, this is the best part of like community coaching that I love is when somebody courageous to share a moment that they've been carrying like a big boulder. And once they let it out of them, they feel like a little small pebble. Now they can carry it because other people are like, oh, I have my moment. Here goes my moment. And it's a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to see and connect with. So I would encourage anybody that's listening right now. Definitely, we're talking about comparison. And the best way you can really set yourself free is to share the thing that you're most embarrassed about, the thing that you've been hiding in the closet for so long, the thing that you want to share with other people to get it off of your chest. You got to find a place to do it. And that will make you feel a lot more empowered because no longer you're hiding, like you're being open. And there's nothing like that freedom. I'm telling you, nothing like that freedom.
People cannot compare and create at the same time. You're either doing one or the other. You're
Mm,
comparing or you're creating. Because if you're creating, you're too busy to be comparing. You're not worried about someone else.
mm.
You're creating whatever it is that your heart desires, whether it's professionally or personally. You're busy focusing in on what you're doing that you don't have time to be worried about what, Susie's doing.
And the beautiful part of creation is you've created that stuff already. You just been hiding it. And now you get to share it. Now
I
you
mean,
get to share it.
isn't it more important that we stay close to the things that make us feel alive rather than scared and afraid?
Mm.
Isn't it more important that when we talk about living and life and dreams and goals, that those are the things that really matter versus how is Asher on book number 5 and I haven't started book number 1? Instead of comparing that you haven't started book number 1 and focusing in on Asher's on book number 5, why don't you send Asher a message? I'd love to hear how you got started.
You know, I'll tell you this because I might have shared it before, but I'll talk about Earl Nightingale. He's one of my big heroes. I mean, I talk about him all the time, but when it comes to public speaking and just speaking in general, because I listen to all his books and stuff. But I remember I was talking to my coach, Joe Wellen, because he was a pupil of Earl Nightingale, right? And I was curious. I was like, what was Earl Nightingale like when he was like presenting some of his stuff? And he was telling me how he started and some of the stuff he used to do that we don't recognize behind the scene, right? Especially he used to read from a lot of script. And because I used to have this self-consciousness about reading script because I don't do so well at it, right? I'm still practicing. Everybody can see. Asher is not the greatest at right. You can tell when I open in, I'm reading a script and I'm stumbling and so, but I'm getting better at it because I speak better naturally. But it was telling me that Earl Nightingale does that a lot when he was presenting, he was reading a script, but I didn't know. But when he told me that, I started feeling good about myself even more. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not like this guy was reading the script, he wasn't speaking from the hip, but I thought he was. So that when we compare ourselves to other people, we don't know their technique and method behind the scene to make them look so great. And we're thinking on the outside that's what they're doing, but they're not. And you're beating up yourself like, oh, this person is so great, but you don't know this person got a whole team that doing everything. All they do is say a few words, or somebody go in and edit the thing and make it look really good. But we don't know that. Like I've even watched one of my favorite podcaster. I think it's Tom Bayu, right? And I've caught him like if you see his regular podcast, it's edited very good. But when you catch him like live, he has so much damn filler words. I wouldn't recognize this. I'm like, but wait a minute, this guy sounds so clean when he speaks on his edited version, but on his unedited, he's so much filler words. But that doesn't stop him from being one of the greatest podcasts ever. So we are comparing our inside to other people outside, not seeing what's behind the scene, the backstage. But once you recognize the backstage, the front stage won't intimidate you. And oftentimes we intimidate by other people's front stage because we don't know what's going on behind the scene.
Again, because people see the end result and not the process. People
Mm-hmm.
see the perception that someone wants to give of themselves, of the world. It's not always true. And I know that we think that it is, and we think that people have these great lives and, have had just success come so easy and they didn't go through the challenges and the things that I've gone through. And like, no, like, come on. Those are the things you tell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things you tell yourself instead of getting wrapped up in where and what other people have. Get wrapped up in what you want. Focus in. So I have a coaching client, and she's been in business for almost 3 years now. Not many people know she's in business because she doesn't really put it out there. I'm going to say in the last year, someone that she respects asked her to help promote their business because she was a client in their business. And so she's been every single day for 100 days promoting this other woman's business. I'm like, are you getting a cut of that money? Why would you promote her business? Because she asked you to? Because you're a client of hers? Okay. But while you're sitting there promoting her business, you need to start promoting your business at the same time. Because the work that she did with you isn't what got you the result. It's a part of what got you the result, but you also had things that you are directly connected to and benefit from that gave you those results. So now go share that with the world.
Mm. I don't know if you know what kind of button you just pushed this. Jess, that is the reality that is so hard. And oftentimes we don't recognize how hard it is because we get excited about other people, but not about ourselves. We get excited about other people's image, but not our own image. We get excited about what other people create, not about what not we create. And I had to learn that lesson myself because it was a hard lesson to learn. Tell you right now, my first book, second book, third book, so forth and so on, right? I wasn't excited about promoting my book because I was under that same mindset depression or oppression of my own self. And it was very hard to wait a minute. Let me go talk about other people's stuff like I talk about my stuff like I talk about other people's stuff. Because I get excited about sharing a great book I read, but I'm gonna get excited about sharing a great book that I write. You know, it's crazy. But let me know. Tell me what you think about that. What you think is the if you gotta diagnose that thing, what would be the diagnosis of that real problem in other people's life?
Because if somebody judges you, okay, so let's say you're talking about a book that you read. If somebody doesn't agree with what you said about the book that you read and they judge you about the book or whatever, it's not really you. It's the book. You didn't write the book, you just read the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they have those same thoughts or opinions or criticisms about the work that you did, then that feels a lot different. That whole fear of judgment and criticism. But someone's judgment and criticism of you really is not your problem, it's theirs because you've done something that they didn't have the courage to do.
Mm.
You did something that they didn't have the vision and the desire and the dream to do. They're miserably content, stuck in the same place in life, pointing fingers at other people who are doing more, being inspired by life to go after the dreams they have in their heart. So does that person's opinion really matter? In my opinion, no. But it's easier when we promote somebody else's business and there's maybe no likes, no engagement, no comments, no purchases, because it's not our business. But the minute we promote our business, our thing, and there's no likes, no engagements, no follows, no shares, we start to have that self-sabotage kick in. We start to have that comparison happen. We start to wonder, why is no one liking what I'm putting out into the world? And sometimes that doesn't feel good.
Here's something crazy. It's always a great idea inside of the oven. Once you create that thing inside the kitchen, it's great until it goes out there in the world and people are like, nah, I ain't gonna write a check for that. Ain't gonna do that. It's always a great idea until it hits the check writers or the community. And we gotta understand that everything is really good until it's public. They realize that the market doesn't is not feeling it. But you gotta understand that and embrace that. Like not everything is gonna be awesome. Like you can't fall in love with this thing until it hits the market and the market says, I love it. Then you're like, okay, let me fall in love with it. But if not, then just create and put it out. And
So
you're
the
right, a lot of
question
people
really
can't.
is, you love it, but do you love it enough to pay for it? Do you see the value that it has, that you're willing to pay for it.
I want to tap back into something because when you was talking about, people excited about sharing other things, because marketers know this too. They know how to capitalize on people that are afraid to share their own stuff, so they give them something to share. And in that space, there you kind of suppress or depress or oppress your own creativity, your own ideas, and never put it out because people understand that I don't want to give you something to share because I know you don't have confidence in your own thing to put it out there either. So let me give you something to share, and that happens too because people know that.
It's almost as if you're hiding your gifts, but you're shining somebody else's. You're showing everyone else's greatness, but hiding your own. I'm like, who does that serve? How do you expect to be better, do better, have more, be more, do more if you're hiding, if you're comparing, if you're self-sabotaging, having the negative self-talk? I've been talking about my 12-week coaching program. You've been talking about your memoirs to millions. Why? Because we've worked really hard. We're proud of the work that we have produced. I'm going to say this, and I want everyone to listen to this with a grain of salt from the perspective of growth, what I'm about to say, and to be encouraged. This 12-week coaching program, is it a great program? Absolutely. Is it going to be my best program? It's going to be my best program today. 5 years from now, it's not going to be my best program. My best program's coming 5 years from now. Maybe my best program's coming 10 years from now. Is it going to stop me from doing what I have with what I have now, today, to produce something great that can create impact and income for other people? No, it inspires me. Like lights a flame under my ass and be like, hello, you've slept on yourself too long. What have you been waiting for? But that requires mindset. So do you have that mindset? The people listening to us, what's the mindset that you have? Are you stuck comparing where you are and not thinking of where the possibility is that where you could be? Life is as beautiful as you make it.
We're gonna wrap up, but I want the folks that just heard you spoke to them to kind of think about the big question here is what is it that you're comparing that is not really elevating you? And figure out what the thing about you that's unique that you need to bring out to the world. Because, yeah, I've been writing since I retired from the military. And my long game is to do it until I hit my 86th birthday. And you're saying that you're going to keep coaching and putting your stuff out there until God decided to take you, don't know when. I put my numbers out there because I'm saying God to 86 is my number. That's when I want to leave. But you gotta figure out your own number. But I pick mine. I pick mine. But you gotta think about the thing that you really, really, really value in your life right now. You want to leave an impact on the world and figure out how you're gonna get it out there and do it and see what the world thinks of it. Because yes, I wrote a lot of books and some of the books doesn't do anything. I'm like, okay, cool. The right people haven't found it yet, but I'm still gonna keep writing, putting stuff out there. Because you know what I'm doing, Jess? I'm getting better at Asher. I'm getting better at Asher because Asher gonna mean something before I leave this planet Earth. It's gonna mean a lot of things before I leave planet Earth. I want to make sure I dictate what that is. What is your biggest takeaway from this conversation?
Book number 1 by Asher A.W., right, is not going to be as phenomenal as book 86 by Asher. You're gonna be a one-name author, Asher.
That's it.
That's it. People are gonna say Asher, they're gonna know who you are. They're gonna know who you
Wait, wait,
are.
wait, 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 wait. I love the way you just put that because that was my original thought because I love my first name so much. I was like, I just want to be known by Asher,
Yeah, they're gonna know
But
who you are.
yeah, I do. But let's go. Keep going.
Yeah. I think, what if you weren't worried about what other people think and worried about, are you better, or if someone else is better than you, and you just decide to be brave, to go for it, unapologetically you, knowing that the beauty is part of the journey that you're on your path to purpose. that when you realize that the gifts you have to share with the world are uniquely yours, that your authenticity is going to be the thing that attracts people to you and want more of you, that your only competition is yourself, that no one is you and that's your superpower, that all the things you say to yourself you believe about yourself. Then there's no room and space for comparison. So I'm going to challenge you the way I give you a challenge every week to really think about, what is it that you're actually comparing? What is it that you're really afraid of? And how can you have more faith than fear and realize that the world is waiting for you? Look inward and identify that thing. And then, like my friend Dawn says, be laser focused on overcoming that one thing. Asher, where can they find you?
They can find me in my house, hanging out and hiding. But online, definitely. I'm on the social media platform. I'm on X. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. Instagram is asher.ra.sta, but everywhere is Asher, right? You can find me there.
And you
And
got
lifechangingwisdom.com. That's my website.
Memoirs to Millions. People could
Yes, yes.
complete the
Pressure
quiz.
from Jess. Pressure from
Yeah,
Jess is coming out. Pressure from Jess is coming out.
it's good pressure. It's how the
Pre-
rock turns into a diamond.
pressure bust pipe.
It's how the rock turns into a diamond. Get over it. It's healthy pressure. It's pressure
Mm,
that comes with support and
mm,
with, I think that that's the thing that a lot of people are afraid of. I don't have all the answers. Or we have these things that we're working on, but there's no end date, there's no launch date, there's no
mhm.
exact. And
There's no birth date. There's no coming out the womb
yes,
date.
yes. And, but that's because we need community to help us see that part.
Book birthday. I like this. I just thought
Yeah.
about
The
this.
book
The
birthday.
book birthday is 27.
April 27th is the book birthday. But you could find me on Instagram at Success is Your Reward with Jess. You could follow me on Facebook under my name. You can find my Hustle with Heart 12-week coaching program at hustlewithheart.online. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on today's conversation. Like, subscribe, share, comment, and tell us what you'd like to hear us talk some more about.
One more thing I forget to mention. By the time this comes out, it's gonna be already started. But I've created this other community called the Ultimate Mind and Body Transformation Program. You're gonna see me start promoting that a lot. That's my other coaching program with some other awesome people that I'm working with. But more to follow on that, I can put the show notes, put the content in the show notes so you can kind of track that down. But in case you're interested in really working on yourself, that's another program that's out there that Ashley is part of I'm working with. So with that, Jess, smile at the camera for one more time and then make it an utterly fantastic day.